big-time college corners, and then he's working his way through it. So he's flashed. Again, still has a long way to go. He's put 15 pounds on since he's been here, since he reported in January. So, done a good job there. But there's a lot of competition at the wide receiver position right there. So, probably 6, 7, 8 guys in there that all vie for playing time. And so that's an ongoing battle. One thing that he doesn't have a bunch of experience, and he's going to have to get that over the next few practices.
He looks, now, from what we've seen, like we've seen him before in high school or whatever, he always has these little things that he does, or you saw him catching the sideline today. Is he where you expected? Is he ahead of what you expected? Is this what you expected from him?
I'm not sure I had, really an expectation. I knew how talented he was, and we'll see. I think after spring we'll have a better idea. But obviously encourage what we see. I mean, everything we expected him to be, I guess, in terms of his talent level, yeah, that's there for sure.
We'll go second row, Marcus.
How is Robert Landers? I know we saw him the first day and he seemed to be banged up. What's his status?
He's kind of day-to-day as well, just dealing with the shoulder, a little back, knee. He's got a few things, been around and played a lot of football, so we're just being smart with him right now.
Front row back.
Can you maybe just give us a sense of, at the receiver position, which guys you're thinking most about at X, which guys are at Z, and how many of those guys are you comfortable with at both positions?
So KJ is, coming back, the most productive guy coming back. He's our H. He's really come back strong. Probably our best route runner. Again, most productive guy. He's really good. And, the defense that we're seeing is a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. So maybe not getting as many targets, but that's more about the defense, and that'll come throughout practice the first 3 days. But he's an H. At Z, we've been working Austin Max kind of going back and forth, X and Z. And then Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson are also working at Z. And then going back to the X position, Benjamin Victor has been playing X. Austin can play X. Jalen Harris can play X. And so that's been kind of how it's worked. CJ Saunders has been working at H as well. We've been using Jeremy Ruckert as an H in 12 personnel some. Elijah Gardner's been working at the Z. Garen Prater's been working at X.
Because even just look at
and then Jalen Gill's also working at H.
Even there were a couple times today when Austin and Ben were out with the ones together, where maybe a year ago it seemed like they were both more at X. There may be situations where we could see Austin and Ben on the field together.
Yeah, Austin, he's played so much X, he knows that position really, really well. At any point he can go back. They're kind of like Terry McLaurin did. He knew Z really well, and then midway through the season jumped over to X, and so it gives him more value, it gives him more versatility like anything else. So we can always put him back at X, but we want to try to get the best receivers on the field at once, and so that gives him the spring to learn Z, so he has that in his back pocket.
Coach, DeMario McCall, seems like the guy's been working to get in the lineup, and I think it was Tony who said he's going to play a lot of football this year. Does he have a role?
We'd like to get him a role. He hasn't practiced yet. He's been dealing with a calf injury, and so we want to get him out in the field so we can get him a role. He's got a lot of versatility. Like you saw at the end of the season, we used him in a lot of different ways to get matchup problems for defense. So we'd like to get that going, but he's just got to get through this calf injury, which I think he's close to getting back. So.
Front row, Tim.
Yeah, Brad, I walked in a little bit late. You may have already talked about Justin Fields, but what did you just see from him today that flashed to you? I mean, from the standpoint of is he getting the system, et cetera?
Yeah, he is. He's a pretty quick learner. In 5 practices, he's kind of moving the offense. Got a long way to go, but he's picking up pretty quickly. And we have a lot of offense. We don't run the same play twice very often. And so there's a lot being thrown at the quarterbacks. And I think he and the other quarterbacks are handling it really well, putting it on the field. And it's hard to do something for the first time and be really good at it, And so we got to just keep getting multiple reps, and the more reps you get, the better off you are. But you can usually tell early on with the quarterbacks that they can pick things up quickly. Justin's done a good job of that.
And Brandon Bowen, obviously left tackle today. Isn't a lot of sort of banged up?
Yeah, we just mentioned it earlier. Yeah, Josh had fever, flu-like symptoms, so he was out today.
But Gavin Cup's kind of been in there the whole time. What have you seen come on with him likewise, I guess, more than anything else? I think near the end of the year there was some talk about him
finally getting it? Do you see?
Put in a great off season with Mick, and so you know, he's kind of thrust into that role, and he's a guy who's been around for a while and paid his dues. He's a tough guy, and you know, he's kind of a workman-like, you know, attitude every day, and so he's getting better. And the more reps he gets, the better he'll be as well.
Let me ask one last thing. You did this first 3 games of the year last year, all through preseason camp, first 3 games, but do you find yourself watching the entire picture now? I mean, as a head coach, and how has that changed sort of your perspective? If the offense gets a great play, the defense, you know what I mean?
It's really it's funny you ask, because that's really what, as I go out to practice, where do my eyes go? And what it is, it's the energy and the effort. That's really, and then when we get back in here, I'll start watching the film and really try to look at technique, scheme, kind of where we're at that way. But it's really about just watching the energy, watching the guys run sideline to sideline. You know, watching the guys with in terms of like how does the offense operate? Are they getting the plays fast enough? What's the tempo? Are we using the right terminology when we're running on and off the field? Things like that, as opposed to the techniques or the reads by the quarterbacks or anything like that.
In the 3 practices we've seen parts out, Justin Fields is what could be read into that? I mean, is there any separation right now?
Yeah, he hasn't been taking all the reps with the ones. Matt's taking reps with the ones, and so yeah, I mean, it's one of those things we're going to try to split up the reps the best we can. And Matt has taken reps with the ones, and he will continue to take reps with the ones. And the guys got to do a good job of taking taking those opportunities and being successful with them. It's like anything else. When you get into an opportunity, you got to take advantage of those things. And so we'll continue to split the reps up and let those guys compete.
The defense, it's hard to do something actually a lot. It looked like you were using certain alignments with one deep safety and 3 linebackers, quarterbacks. How much advantage is kind of early whether or not you say we're going to see that?
Yeah, I'd rather not get into that. I know a couple of people had asked me that earlier, and I just was a little vague. I'd rather not to get into all of that right now. Maybe as we get into preseason, we can talk more about that.
You mentioned Jalen Gill earlier.
Okay.
What did you see from him, and what kind of role could he have?
He could have a big role. He's very much like KJ. I think he has a lot of the same skills. Once the ball's in his hands, he's really good. He's pretty crafty. He can catch the ball. But again, it's he's a young player that has inexperience, and there's a maturity that he's working through right now. He has made some good strides, and so we got to keep building on that. But he's a young guy. He's got a really good room there. If he can kind of grab onto the culture that Paris, Johnny, and Terry left behind, and that KJ and Austin and Ben are really trying to take over for, then I think he's going to be a really good player.
Moving on to front row from Bill.
You mentioned like Nick Petit-Frere, for instance. Some of these second-year guys, that 18 recruiting class, which some really highly ranked guys in there. You have a lot of options in a lot of different positions, but if some of those guys pop, if some of those guys start to show in the spring that they're ready to help this team fall, how much of a difference is that going to make? Whether it's Petit-Frere or Roger Mitchell or Jalen or Kayvon Pope, a bunch of guys.
Yeah, the thing I said to them the other day, they're not freshmen anymore. They're not freshmen. Time to go. They have to play. If we're going to be good, those guys all have to step up and either become starters or be in the 2 deep. If they're not, then there's something not right. And so not everybody develops at the same pace, but you need to start feeling that class. The 2018 class needs to be felt, this spring and into the preseason. I agree with you. If we're going to make a push at this thing, that class has to really step up.
And when Taraja, I know obviously had some guys out over the linebacker, he took a lot of reps like today. When he gets in that spot, does he look like he can handle it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're excited about Taraja.
Last couple of scores.
Hey Ryan, I know I asked you about recruiting already, but one quick one. Now that you're the head coach, you worked through developed some of Ohio State's best players and kids in the last few years, but how is it different on a day like today for you? You're on track of, on top of everything that the team's doing, but you also have to make sure you get time with every one of those 4 or 5 star kids. I mean, is it different? Is recruiting different now for you?
It is because you get your hands on everybody, and the head coach has to recruit everyone. So there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of it is the relationships that are built before they get on campus. So that when we do see them, it's not, hey, I'm Ryan Day, how are you, where are you from, that kind of thing. A lot of the relationships have been built on the front end, so we can kind of get down to business and kind of answer the questions that they have about the school and the different things that we have to offer. But we have a great staff here, and everybody's involved in recruiting. We had a function the other night, and I looked around, and just about everybody in the room was working. I mean, they were working, and because it takes a village to recruit people these days. Not one or two guys can recruit anybody. It takes the whole village, and that's everybody involved with it. So you have to, on a day like today, you got to be very organized. You got to have a really good group of personnel guys that can funnel through the people, and we can handle it. And it's fun to be around when there's a lot of people here, but at the same time, you got to make sure you manage it the right way.
And last two sort of following back.
One of the things that J.K. Dobbins has said is he wanted to be worked as if he was a freshman again. What have you seen out of him in his first couple of practices?
Yeah, a little bit more of we call it a white belt mentality, which is, in the martial arts, you have that white belt mentality, which is I'm starting over again. And when you have that mentality, like you're going to kind of start from scratch again, then you can really clean up a lot of things. A lot of guys in this position don't have that mentality, so it's a credit to him. And it was a great example the other day. We're running a play where he's one-on-one with the corner. He kind of jumps up in the air, and when he does that, the game kind of stops. And so we talked to him about keeping your feet in the ground and making that cut without jumping. We really replicated the same play for him in practice, and he made that change of direction, stuck his foot in the ground without getting in the air, and then broke it for a big play. So he's listening, he's working, he wants to get better, and he has that mentality. So hats off to him.
And when you've seen him run with he said he's going to be the guy this year, and running that offense with Justin Fields, it may be more of that, dual threat kind of quarterback thing again. Is that kind of what you're expecting, bringing back that? You've always had the read option, but just what is that going to be like in terms of carries? You may not know this yet.
Yeah, hard to tell so early right now. I said it a year ago when we went from JT to Dwayne that it's the same offense. It's just what we call more, what we emphasize more. So it's really the same plays that we were running last year. We had in 2 years ago. They just didn't work the same way. And so you find the things that fit your personnel and you go from there. So, but now's a great time to experiment with some of those things to find out how they do work, how they do fit, and what gives us the best chance to move the ball.
And last one, we'll go to you.
The linebackers talked Thursday about how they feel the defense has been simplified a little bit. It allows them to play faster. Is that something you felt through these first 5 practices?
Yeah. I do. I feel like they're playing fast. Again, being the head coach and seeing it now from my vantage point, I do think that they're playing fast. Get on the film and see, but we're only 3 days in pads, and so it's hard to tell. But I do think the guys have energy and playing hard. Again, that inside drill we had was really good, and so hopefully we can build on that. Take a look at the film today and kind of see where we're at.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Coach.